It's
going, it's happening.
So I'm doing my very best.
Okay. This is a perfect opportunity.
I'm reaching out.
Oh, believe me, I know you are. Believe me. But this is a perfect opportunity if you have a tendency to if your habit or your goal has been less than 20, right? This is a perfect opportunity to kind of confirm how long does it take me to have all these contacts, right? So if it used to take you an hour to get 10, then does your schedule reflect that you have some new goals so that you can create some momentum for the very end of the year and the beginning of the year? So I'm going to, even though some of you are in bold and some of you are not, I'm going to speak to you guys like all of you are in bold for the next 2 months. So I love it when we do bold at the end of October or in October, because it forces everybody to really, really focus on creating the right momentum for, particularly for the beginning of the year. So good morning, everybody. I want to continue a couple of, or give you a couple of quick calendaring things. So just a reminder, today we are doing a mastermind at the Market Center. I will put it on Zoom just so people can listen or whatever, but it will be at the Market Center from 1:30 to 3:30. Will be specifically for the launch agents. That's like, let's say 3 units and less yearly or annually. And then the growth group will be from 2:30 to 3:30. You're more than welcome to come for anything you want, but most likely the content will focus on growth related content and launch related content for the appropriate times. We do have 2 special guests that are going to be joining us. One is Stephanie Herbert. She is last year's Rookie of the Year. She spent some time in productivity coaching as well. So she's going to share a little bit about her journey. She was and still is dual career. So I think we can take quite a bit from that. And secondly, Westlyn Bazilla is going to be joining us as well. Westlyn, I don't know if you guys follow her on social media, but I just love her style on social media. I think that she puts the messages out there in a very professional and very kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily a luxury feel, but kind of a luxury feel a little bit. But it's definitely not pretentious. It's definitely not braggy. It's just I love her style online. So I invited her in to teach us a little bit about how she views branding and how she uses the social media platforms to share her knowledge and to grow her database. So please join us 1:30 to 3:30 today. And then don't forget, tomorrow and Thursday from 1 to 5 will be the Gene Rivers session. That will be streamed on KW Connect as well as the Pivot Shift Ahead Facebook group. So my hope is that you guys will attend that. I certainly will. And if you have any questions or follow-up, or you want to do some more custom business planning in private, just let Candace or I know, and we'll be happy to give you some feedback on what you've done so far. So welcome. Thank you, Julian, for spending a few minutes with us today. Many of you guys have seen, actually I haven't checked the newsletter to see if we switched it over to you, but it should, if it's not there, it should be there today. Julian and I did a nice little interview at the end of last week and got an opportunity to hear a little bit about his background and all the things that he's done and managed and owned and run. And you're having some very impressive success at real estate of late. And I just want to, you guys have probably heard this phrase, this overnight sensation or an overnight, what's the phrase? Overnight success? It only appears that way because you're staring at like a, barren ground and all of a sudden, poof, up comes the flower, right? But I can attest to you guys, for over 1.5 years, Julian has been plugging away at growing his database and getting sharper and sharper on scripts and presentations, organization, follow-up campaigns, everything. Every time that we speak, we're cross-referencing old files, we're double checking to see what's new with certain people, and he knows everything about the people he's in courtship with. So Julian, I invited him today to speak with us today, specifically about for sale by owners and expireds, and kind of your approach to calling people that you do not know. And I'd also like to hear a little bit about just kind of the way that you structure your day. One thing that I always find to be really impressive with you, as crazy as it sounds, every single time we've spoken, every single coaching session we've ever had, which is probably easily, I'd bet 100 sessions, you've been sitting in the exact same chair. And what that tells me is that you're at work, right? You're at work. This is your work time. You are sitting at your workstation, and this is where you get things done. So I think that there is a lot to that. More often than not, I don't think people understand that quite as much as they should. So I was hoping that you could speak to that for a minute today too. But so please take some time to watch the video of Julian and I on the newsletter. I think you'll get a lot of good pointers from that. But Julian, what I'm hoping you can do today is just help us understand a little bit about how you approach the business, and maybe why you chose to execute primarily on the route of speaking to people you do not know. And if you could share some of your successes from that, that would be fantastic. Then we'll get into some scripting.
Sure. Thank you, Bill. It seemed to me that Expires and for sale by owners were people looking to sell their homes. So, that's seemed like it's a natural place to go instead of, like Facebook, which, maybe looking to buy a car, but not necessarily real estate related. So I focused on Expires for sale by owners. For sale by owners are a little bit easier to approach because they answer the phone more readily, and they're more talkative. So I like for sale by owners. I've been told that Monday is really the best day because they've had a very bad weekend of not selling their house again. So I love to jump on them on Monday, as I did yesterday. I try to structure my day. PC sort of recommends the 9 to 11 route for the hard calling. You could start at 8:30 and do the script practice. You could, or even earlier, I guess. And then you do your database afterwards. You would the new prospects, the 11 or 20 prospects you try to achieve per day would go into the database if you had a two-way conversation. So that's or had met. So those are the way I structure it.
Okay, let me make sure I heard that correctly. So do you have specific time in your morning where you say, hey, this part of my lead generation session, I'm going to talk to strangers, and this part of my lead generation, part of my slot, so to speak, is going to be speaking to people I already know or I'm following up with?
Yeah, the database is in the afternoon. So 12 o'clock on whatever. And I'm not rigid. I mean, if I'm not, I'll run a list on Vulcan 7 of Expires, for instance. And if I don't get them, say there's a list of 50 calls and you only get 11 calls or something like that, you try a different time of day, mid-afternoon, early evening, that type of deal. So you have to call multiple times. So don't be upset because they didn't answer or anything like that. Just stick with it. Some are Expires are a little tougher. They're grumpy because they didn't sell their house. They've gone through all the trouble of showing and staging and just all the typical things sellers do, and they don't sell. They're overpriced usually. So MMO is very important to use to sort of understand the pricing of the neighborhood. So confine it to a certain area. Pick one of the areas that you're comfortable with, you want to work with, you want to drive to, that type of thing.
All right, let me point you in a couple of specific directions. So first of all, can you share with us how you use the MMO, and is there a specific slide that you like when it comes to working with FSBOs or Expires?
Yeah, I like slide 6. I think because you can edit that slide. It took me a while to get onto that a couple of years ago, but you double click on the slide itself. So once you open up the deck, go to the PowerPoint. They have two. They presents a PDF or a PowerPoint. So click on the PowerPoint PPT and open the thing. At the very top, the first page it asks you do you want to edit? You just click yes, and then go to. I like 6. You can review the first 2 are general market. Slide 1 and 2 are the market.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now just so I can see if I can see exactly which slide number 6 is.
And they recently renumbered them. So it's the first one, I think, or this actually it's the second one you can edit. So it may be 6 or 7, I think.
Okay, so 6 or 7 is the one where it talks about you put in a specific FMLS area, and
Right, so
then it tells you median days in the market, price reductions, and how it's changed year over year. Is that right?
exactly. So that way you can drive down and look, if you're calling a $500,000 home, you go to the column for 500 and 600,000, and you'll know what's average. So you're looking at expired, it was in the market for 80 days. You see that their neighborhood or their area sells in that price range in 7 days. You know something's wrong, and she's at price.
All right, I'm going to post the entire MMO slide deck into the WhatsApp chat right now. He's talking specifically about slide 7, and I know probably what some of you guys are thinking right now, which is, isn't FMLS doing away with areas, and how will that impact everything, right?
Vulcan 7's apparently not getting out of areas right now, so I'm not sure how it'll affect.
Yeah, well, we're behind the scenes. We've been talking to Chuck about essentially what criteria should we be using, whether it's zip codes or a certain mapped area. We're basically trying to figure out what the best presentation of that data is, so that you guys can have something that's just as beneficial, and that it could be, you know, probably looked up and cross-referenced and edited just like you see today.
Exactly. So that'll give you some great starting points to become an expert in the market. So you'll have more confidence to, you know, your neighborhood sells in 7 days typically, and they get 99.4% of the listing price, 32% reduce their price, this type of deal.
And by the way, your competition is responding in very vague terms at best. So for example, if the owner would say, well, you know, how's the market? They would say, oh, it's good, or oh, it's busy, or oh, there's a lot of offers, or something like that, right? And it's painfully obvious who is a better market expert when you come in with statistics and third-party statistics, particularly, and colorful graphs, and everything is editable, and you know, you can do it right there. It's just a huge differentiator between you and your competition.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk about, I want to make sure that people kind of isolate, knows that not zip codes, please. A zip code can be in multiple counties and multiple school districts. I completely agree, Pam. I will, anything that you, by the way, any of your, I haven't officially been given permission to do this, but that's never stopped me really before. So if you have any ideas or something like that, Pam, just share it with me and I'll send it to Chuck, and maybe that'll be something that he takes into consideration. Okay. Chuck, by the way, is the guy who owns and runs Chartmasters. Okay, so I want to make sure that people kind of understand the nuances of dealing with FSBOs versus expired. So let's start with FSBOs. Can you give us a little bit of information about your kind of FSBO system in terms of follow-up, and maybe we can role play a call as well.
Okay. When I run a Vulcan list of 50 sub-owners or whatever, I'll generally pull an area like Cumming, Milton, Roswell, Alpharetta, and that'll yield it, because there are less and less expireds on there now available, and less FSBOs. So because the market's hot. So anyway, you just have to get a larger area, but you'll pull your list, and you're ready to talk to these people, and they typically answer. If they don't, it tells you something. They're trying to sell their house, they don't answer, but most of them will answer, and most of them are friendly, and you have to figure out a way to get in there. There's a lot of scripts. I brought a lot of scripts this morning just to review some, but basically I go with the flow. I mean, you can get as scripted as you want, or you can take the lead from the call. So I have sort of gravitated into where I'll listen. You know, I'll start out.
Let's role play it. Let's officially role play it. I'm the owner. I've got my home for sale by owner. Julian is one of the very few intentional impressive agents out of the 45,000 agents in Atlanta. And you have a habit of calling for sale by owners. So let's do it.
Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. This is Julian Harris with Keller Williams Realty. Was
Hey,
curious,
Julian.
when your house sells, where are you moving?
When the house sells, gosh, we haven't still in the market, but we're planning to move to Decatur.
Oh, that's great. What takes you to Decatur?
Oh, that's where our children are in school. They're in
Oh,
a
good.
private school down there.
So a shorter drive,
Yeah, exactly.
closer to children. All right,
Yeah.
very good. Frank, the reason I call it out is I reach out to for my buyers every day looking for a home to sell, and I just want to call to get some information about your home. Could you tell me a little bit about your home?
Well, yeah, I mean, you saw it on the ad, right? It's like a 4-bed, it's got a pool in the back, and it's in the swim and tennis, and it's got granite and new light fixtures and hardwood floors, and it's pretty open. I mean, you saw all those details, didn't you?
I did. Yes, a very lovely home there. When do you need to be in Decatur?
We're flexible.
Okay, so before the new school year, or is that the plan? Or
Well, that would be ideal, but we're not going to give it away. So, whatever, if we have to drive a little bit longer, that's okay.
all right. And it says you've been on the market about 30 days. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's about correct.
Are you getting good showings?
Um, I'm not really sure, I'm not really a realtor, so I don't really know what's normal. We're getting like maybe 2 or 3 a week. Is that good?
That is good. I mean, that's, it's a great market. It's a seller's market. So that seems very good. You may be interested, your neighborhood sales on an average of about 7 days. So given that the pricing is correct, that's the timing. So that's why I called to see if you had any plans to hire a realtor to discuss what your next step might be.
We're kind of holding out a little bit. I mean, my sister's actually a realtor, so I probably want to interview her, probably hire her.
Yeah, you want to keep friends with your sister, huh?
I mean, not always.
Okay, of course.
If they
A
say
lot of times
something
it's
silly
best to offer.
if they say something silly, by the way, that like is a potential funny moment, dude, you better be laughing too. Okay, it's rapport building time. All right, go ahead.
So a lot of times you can offer your sister a higher commission if she sells your home and keep her happy, and then hire the best agent to sell your home with the best marketing plan that would sell your house and you work well with. So
Well, all the realtors are the same, aren't they? Like, what's the difference between the marketing plans?
well, you'd think most agents, though, they practice the three P's. They put a sign up and pray. So that your
Okay,
house
and what
sells.
do you do?
So we're very proactive. We our marketing plan is very proactive. In fact, I'd love to stop by and talk to you about that this afternoon. Are you available at 3 or 4 this afternoon?
Yeah, you can come at 4. All right, good job. You pushed the hard on the appointment at the end. I wasn't expecting that. Good job.
Thank you.
There's a lot, by the way, if you were to ask 100 FSBO callers how they approach dealing with FSBOs, they're going to have 105 different answers. Okay, so Julian's approach is not the only approach. A lot of that came from Bold, with the 3 Ps and the opening script of when are you going to where are you moving to and when do you need to be there by. Essentially, you're trying to find the motivation. I was not behaving like a particularly motivated seller, right? Yet Julian pushed for the appointment anyway, so I think that was great. Let's see. So talk a little bit about what are some of the most common things that a FSBO will say, and what are your preferred responses?
FSBOs are the delay in time. They're not ready to hire an agent, or they won't share their motivation. Sometimes that's a little bit difficult to get the motivation out. So if there's not a time, then if you think it's worthwhile, if this guy is sufficiently, I mean, if he's been on the market 60 days, he's motivated because he's still stuck on the market and hasn't hired anybody. So I would print that I usually print the hard copy out of Vulcan.
Yeah.
And I save that, number that, and that goes in the database later to follow up, because you do have to follow up, because if he's not ready today, he may be ready in a week or 2 weeks or a month. So those are very important, because you've already made the contact, you already had the initial conversation. So, and how to start your second conversation. So
we've talked about in the past almost having like a pre-database, which is today they're on I don't have them in my database. I don't know who they are. They're on some list on Vulcan. The second they answer their phone, we are trying to decide, has this person earned the right, or is there any value in continuing this relationship over time? The second you think there is, they should be in your database. And until then, they're in your kind of follow-up list, so to speak, right? So I'll tell you what the approach that I've used for FSBO follow-up is actually pretty simple. And Julian, you're probably using a format of this, but I'd like to hear yours too. I love the Monday call. That is perfect. That's exactly what you should be doing. So they get through another week, home's not under contract, maybe they haven't gotten an offer, maybe they are getting more and more promises from their, oh, I think we're going to submit an offer. Oh, we're sitting down with the lender, right? It's always that, especially when the buyer doesn't have any representation and therefore doesn't have anyone that's kind of pushing them along, right? So Monday, call and say, hey, it's Julian Harris with Keller Williams. It's Monday morning, so it's just reaching out to see how your house sale is going. Is your home still available? Right? And they say yes. And then you ask, how many offers did you get this week?
That's the killer.
Right. Yeah.
That was always hard for me to ask at first. I mean, now I'm not bashful about that.
All right. So I want to hear more about that. So what I would say is, how many offers did you get? Not did you get any offers? That's not as painful. How many offers did you get? And they'll probably say none. And then you say, well, no offers. Wow. So how many showings did you have? Right. Almost like you are shocked that they're not getting offers. I mean, because we all put homes on the market and we get offers like that. So if they're putting their home on the market in their own way, so to speak, and they're not getting offers, then that deserves to be investigated, right? So right. You would say, well, so how many offers did you get? Well, how many showings did you have? Well, we had 6 showings. Okay, wow, 6 showings. That's pretty good. So how many of those were real estate agents? Implying that when your average real estate agent, who by the way is not going to follow up, right? Maybe once, but definitely not 10 times, right? When real estate agents call, they are, they're kind of iffy. Maybe they have a buyer, maybe they don't. The real estate agent's not going to buy your home. So in effect, it's as if it wasn't a showing, right? So if they had 6 showings and 5 of them were agents, they basically just had 1 buyer. So you might say, hey, so what's the status with that buyer? Are they going to submit an offer? Have they asked you any follow-up questions? Like, basically you're helping them identify the fact that they're no better off today than they were last Monday. Right. So basically what you're telling me is you have absolutely no chance of getting an offer this week. Is that correct? Right. I wouldn't say that, but I would say, so how many of those showings are real estate agents? And you'd say, oh gosh, almost all of them. Right. So any other prospects that you're chatting with right now? And then you'd say, okay. So let me ask you, what's the one thing I can do to help you this week?
Right. And that's kind of a famous script, not a famous script, but from the internet, there's a lot of coaches out there, and they'll say that they say, the reason I'm calling today is how can I help you? And just listen. And
that's right.
They'll tell you.
Right. And when you ask that question, they might say something like, hey, I just, I realized.
Bring me a buyer. They'll say, bring me a buyer.
Yeah, they'll say, bring me a buyer. Say, hey, I got your information down. I'm a very intentional, systematic realtor. That's why I call you every Monday at 9 o'clock. So I certainly know that your home is available, and I'm on the phone all day with buyers and sellers looking to help each other out. So I got your home in mind. I definitely do. Right. Something of that nature. And then say, Or they might say, hey, you know, my sink started leaking. Do you have a plumber? Right. And the second you can start doing stuff for them, that changes the relationship a little bit. They feel differently about your relationship. The next thing I would say is something like, okay, well, if you need anything, give me a call. I'll call you on Monday. And what you're doing is you're telling them what you're going to do, and then you're doing it. So you're making commitment, and then you're showing that you are able to follow your commitments. And you call them on Monday, and you ask the exact same questions. In the exact
Put it in command and set it up for that call on Monday at 9 o'clock or whatever. And that's how you track it.
Exactly. And that way you, you know, eventually they're going to be like, yeah, Julian, no offers, 4 showings, all of them were agents. I don't need any help. Talk to you Monday. Right. And the next Monday, they're going to be like, okay, why don't you come over and sign some paperwork? Okay. The for sale by owners, they will hire the agent who is both the most helpful and the most persistent. Being helpful every time you call, which is every week, unless, by the way, they have a much shorter deadline that you picked up on, like they need to sell in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something. We don't want to wait a week. They will hire the agent that is both the most persistent and the most helpful. Okay, Julian, I don't want to steal the show. Sorry about that. Tell me a little bit about what is the kind of like, what's your best tip for FSBOs? What is your, oh, I'm sorry, before we go there, tell me a little bit about if your follow-up, how does your follow-up vary from what I just said?
Well, I use command, and I will put them in there just like any other prospect, because now they're a Met, and you have a conversation to continue. So I would pick the time, whether, like you said, whether it's 1 day or 7 days or 2 weeks or whatever, and do a follow-up call for that. In the meantime, I might send them some information about for sub owners. There's a lot of information about the FSBOs only make up about 94% of the market, this type of thing. When you engage them in conversation, a tough person, you say, you know, 94% of the market isn't sold as a for sub owner. They're sold through agents. So you're don't have that available to you as a for sub owner. So that type of thing, or they don't sell for as much, or, you know, reasons. So they sell, it takes twice as long, or, you know, you want to wait another 60 days and get up, make your bed and do that deal. So.
Gotcha. So,
but I track them, they're become a database. And that was what's wrong with one of my database. There were a lot of, I put too many not Mets in there because they were good prospects. I wanted to track them, but they're not necessarily, they weren't Mets. And Mets were the key, I think.
Right. Okay, so talk to us a little bit about before we move on to expireds, what tip do you have for agents that are either considering speaking to FSBOs or maybe are having some struggle and just need a pep talk? What would you say to them?
Well, I would just establish a relationship is an important thing. Find a common thing to talk about. You'll be pleasantly surprised to see that the people are very willing to talk with you. They're generally nice people, and then your caring part of your personality will come out. Just try to help them. Don't try to sell them. I don't try to break into the appointment. I don't overly want to preview properties at all. So I just try to get a reason to preview or come out and get the appointment.
Okay, so you're not going in there saying you have a buyer if you don't have a buyer, and then
do not say that. Just
put the switch on them when you're touring the house or something. Oh, so by the way, can I list your home? And they're like, wait, that's not an integrity. I don't want to hire somebody that's not an integrity.
Exactly.
Okay. Any questions on FSBOs before we move on? Okay.
I just have a really quick question for Julian. Like what his conversion rate is.
Great question.
Great question. I would say maybe 1 out of 20 or something like that. I'm usually get a start. You know, I can get 10 or 11 a week, and then you just keep working those calls. So
let's make sure we're clear on that. So you're calling throughout the day, throughout the week, and you're saying that you will make contact with about 11 new people that are for sale by owners each week, and that 20% of those, or what would that be, 5% of those you will take the listing?
I think, I mean, they're starting to look like that a little bit. I mean,
We're
if
gonna
you get
have to
the
have a
appointment,
coaching
you're
call
gonna,
around accountability for thinking.
okay.
No, just playing. But I'll tell you, the
He
one thing
busts
is
me like that every week, so it's okay.
you're
I'm used
doing
to
the
it.
activity, right? So now I think that isn't just let's take the basics from that, which is if you call 3 FSBOs, one of them answers the phone and they're mean to you, it doesn't mean FSBOs don't work, right? And you're probably calling 100, if not more, per week to get roughly 10% on the phone to meet with roughly 10%. That's what I found is about right. And then once you meet with them, you're probably 50%. If you do proper follow-up, that's probably, you should probably get about 50% of them, right? So, you know, that's probably at your rate, that's about 2 listings taken per month. Would anyone be okay with 2 extra listings per month?
Yeah, very much so. Thanks, Julian.
Beautiful.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's talk about expires. So they say the market's really good right now, and only 12% of homes that are listed are not selling. So talk to me a little bit about expires. What have you learned there, and why do you spend time with expires?
Expires are people that are actively had been trying to sell their home. So you know their motivation is there. You just have to, you know, they got tired of their agent or whatever and pulled it off, or got tired of showing. And they're all over the place from 1 week. I mean, there's just a huge amount of people pulling houses off the market in 7 days or 10 days. And I always find that a curiosity, why you waste your time getting on the market and take it off in 10 days. So oftentimes there's some reasons for that technically, but other than that, it's just kind of crazy. Expires are a ready source of business. You know, you start out to try to find out, are they planning to go back on the market? Are you interviewing agents now? You know, like to show you why we're the #1 brokerage in the world.
All right, let's do a call. I'll be the seller again. Let's just say my home has been on the market for 90 days. It just expired. And now I'm getting clobbered by calls from other agents, and Julian, who wants my business really bad, is going to sound a little different, right?
Right.
Ring, ring.
Hi, this is Julian Harris. I'm with Keller Williams Realty, and I'm just calling to
Hey,
make
don't
sure
you want to
you're
know my name, Julian?
Heck no. You're number 77. Okay. So anyway, I guess you're aware by now that your home is off the MLS, off the market. I was wondering if you were interviewing agents to put it back on the market.
You know, I don't know. Gosh, it's been all my friends are selling their homes, and for some reason I haven't been successful. So I don't know. I might give it a little break.
Oh, okay. And where were you going? Where were you planning to move if it had it sold?
We are moving to Knoxville.
That's exciting. What takes you there?
My parents are in Knoxville, and so if we're up there, we'll be closer to the grandparents.
Oh, good deal. And what do you have any idea what stopped your home from selling?
Not really. I mean, we redid the kitchen in 1990, and like everything is pretty clean. I don't know why it didn't sell. We got new knobs and everything.
Keller Williams has a private database that provides data. It says your neighborhood sells in about 7 days, given its price right. Its price, condition, and location. We can't do anything about the location or the condition, but we can certainly adjust the price to make it attractive to buyers to sell.
Well, I don't want to give it away now.
No, absolutely not. The market sets the value of your home, so it's not you or I. The market will tell you whether you can't underprice a house. So would it be okay to come by tonight at 7?
Well, tonight at 7, it's just me. My wife is out tonight. So, I mean, you can come over tonight and talk to me, and maybe tomorrow night and talk to her. Would that be okay?
I think you'd benefit from both to hear both sides of your desires to sell and information. So how about we just do it tomorrow when your wife's home?
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Okay, 6 or 7 work for you tomorrow?
6. Okay.
6. Okay.
So I just want to say, particularly as a new agent, we are willing to just run through hoops to finally meet with somebody. And I think that that comes from a place of scarcity, right? So if you were having that conversation and it had been a little while since you had gotten somebody to agree to meet with you, then you might be willing to miss family time 2 nights in a row, and then probably have to meet with both of them again because they probably don't completely agree, right? So let's make sure that we are respecting our time and our time commitments within business and with outside of business. And Julian, what you did was perfect. You made it make perfect sense to have everyone meet together, right? That's the key, is if we meet together, here's why it will benefit you. And if we meet separately, here's how that might not be as advantageous. So great job on that. Did anyone else hear something they didn't understand, or they're curious about, or want a little bit more explanation? Anyone?
I've heard from people that I've talked to that it's like a shark frenzy when somebody expires, and the phone calls just are absolutely crazy. I mean, I had a client whose home expired, and she called me and she was like, Candace, they're calling my 80-year-old mother. She thinks somebody's buying her house and forcing her out. And so I love Julian's approach that was very like, can I help you, instead of, you need to sell your home. Da, 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 da. I love that very gentle approach, because I think that's probably different than what a lot of agents are doing.
Right. However, I would say that this is a great example of the opportunity to mirror and match, right? So for example, if, I was, I kind of behaved a little softer, right? I wasn't like, you're the 80th person who's called me today, right? I was more casual. So he was more kind of comforting to that, right? And that's what Candace was referring to. However, if I was the opposite way, and I was like, oh my gosh, why are you calling me? I need to take my phone off the hook. You're the 74th person that's called me today. They're telling you it's okay to speak bluntly with them. That's my take, right? And so, I have responded by saying something like 74, that's it? There's 45,000 real estate agents in Metro Atlanta, and only 74 of them are doing their job today. I can't believe that.
I love that.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Right.
That's a good way to do it.
So I mean,
also,
it just changes the perspective a little bit, right?
And
so
remember,
then they say, oh my gosh, you must be one of the 74 that's actually doing their job. I perhaps want to hear more. And then I've even said something even more kind of rough around the edges, which is something like, hey, you and I both know that you want to move and you're not happy that it didn't happen the first time. So why don't we sit together? I'm not going to say the same thing that every other realtor says, right? And why don't we just spend a few minutes together, and I'll tell you no obligation, no commitment. I'm going to tell you exactly why your home did not sell. You ready to meet? Right? And just be like, just cut to the chase. And you can kind of almost like kind of minimize what the other agents might be saying. I'm not going to say the same old thing to you like the other 74 agents. They're all writing off the same script, right? Let's cut to the chase. You want to move, and I help people move. So when are we going to meet? Right. So if they're in your face, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting right there with them.
And I think I think it's good to have some, to be able to think on your feet. I was at a Georgia RIA meeting one time, and investors also call expires. And so this investor had gotten up really early and started calling expires at like 7:30, and he got this man, and this man said, why are you calling me so early? And he said, do you realize your home's been off the market for 8 hours? And the guy was like, oh my gosh, okay, I'll list with you. So he got the listing.
Right. Wait, would you prefer your realtor wake up at 7:30 and start working for you, or wake up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and start working for you? Maybe.
Yeah.
Which would you prefer?
Hey, one way to avoid that, there's, people think of it's a feeding frenzy. I call expireds that are 90 days old, 120 days old. There's a wealth of, oh yeah, we've been off for 6 months, and the market's changed now. So, I mean, that's a great way. They're not getting 50 calls. They're answering their phone again.
Good strategy.
Yeah.
It is
great.
great.
You want it to stop? I'll be over in an hour and we'll sign the paperwork and it'll stop right away. You won't get a single another, you won't get any more calls. I'll be the one
That's
getting them. Are you
good.
cool with that? And it's
That's
just
good.
it's a level shift, guys. It's just breaking the expected communication, right? It's changing it up. And I think people sometimes it's not that they're taken aback by it, but it's intriguing, right? They're like, wait a second, this guy's a little different, right?
Hey, yesterday I had an offer written over the weekend for my buyer, and the seller had been on the market for 1,084 days, wanting $850,000. And I was having fun with this. So my offer is going to expire at 4:00 yesterday. So I called them about 3:30 and go, hey, did you get my offer? I figured they're really offended because we offered 400,000 on this $850,000 property. And he said, no, my seller bought it for 650 14 years ago. I said, well, that was 2007. That was the very top of the market. And he overpaid, obviously. So he said, well, he's not going to take less than what he paid for it. So we've already dropped from 850, $200,000 down to 650. So I go, my client's got to spend $200,000 to remodel this office building or whatever, and plus pay you 650. He can't. What kind of rent can he get? 3,000, 4,000 a month? That's not going to pay this $1 million investment. So we're not going to pay. I mean, I may could get a buyer up, but it's certainly not, not to 650. So he drops to 500,000. I'm going, bingo.
Yeah.
So I get back with my buyer. So we're there. We're getting close now, but that's a huge drop. But use that 1,000 days. I mean, what's your motivation? Wants to die owning this property? Is that the plan? I mean, I got tough with him.
Yeah.
I said, look, your client's a senior, and he, can he go to Bahamas or something?
Yeah, it's like, well, how much does it cost each day? How much does it cost your client each day to keep this home empty?
Well, $6,500 last Friday for South County taxes. So, could he put that in the stock market, $6,500, and make a lot of money right now?
That's $500 per month. So that's $12, $13 a day in just taxes. So that's not very, earth shattering, right? So if we were to get to it and say, gosh, he paid $650, so his outlay each month must be, what would that be, like around $4,000, a little over $4,000. So it's been what, close to 3 years or 2 years that you guys have, or 3 years that you guys have been on the market. So as I see it, that's $4,000 times 36 months. That's about $140,000. Help me understand this.
And the agent
do you want
claimed
this pain to stop?
He got $1 million offer 2 years ago. I mean, they used to have it at $1.5 million, or it's just crazy numbers. So they're not realistic.
So are you finding that the reason why FSBOs for the most part are not selling is because of the price, or is there something else going on?
It's the price.
It's the price.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I've got one now at Polo Fields that it's $1,250,000, and he didn't hire me after working with him for a long time. He hired his daughter's new agent friend in 25 miles away, and kept the same price he wanted to get. I told him before it wouldn't sell at $1,250,000, and there's never been one in the entire history of the entire neighborhood that sold for $250,000. I told him his house may get in the upper nines, and so I now it's listed, and I call him up and say, "Hey, are you making any changes?" I treaded lightly on that, but it's, well, no, not yet, whatever. So I just like to goad him at 90-day point.
Yeah, go to that house and put your business card face up right in front of the kitchen sink, so he sees that you were there.
This afternoon, I'm tired of fooling with it. For $1 million, it's worth it to keep after this thing.
Yeah, of course. But I think like I have done what I just said, which is like, if I'm following up with you and you listed with somebody else, I'm going to put a little card. I'm going to go see your home, and I'm going to put my card right on the kitchen table. You will see that I was there, right? I'm watching you. And I'm not trying to be antagonistic. I'm just trying to make sure they know that I'm thorough and I do my job, and I like to be rewarded for doing my job. Is that crazy?
And you're probably the only agent that visited this week.
That's true. All right. What kind of expired questions do you guys have for Julian?
don't let the no's or bother you. Just thank you. I had a sales trainer one time tell me, you take 10 no's, they just think of it as $1 each time or $10 or whatever. And once you get to the 10th call, you're going to get a yes. So just don't let it roll off your back and just do it and smile and go on to the next one.
So that's 2 for 2, 2 days in a row. We've heard the same thing, which is if we first of all, we kind of come to the lead generation session expecting to hear no, right? That's just the nature of our business. We're going to hear no a bunch. And then what we do is when we get the yeses or we get the fun phone calls, we feel super good about it. If we expect that we're going to like go have, 20 listings taken and we get yelled at, it crushes us, right? So understand you will get, you will come across some angry people. As Julian said, when you call like, a week old or a month old or 6 months old expireds, then it's not quite as harsh usually. I think the overall theme is that both people, expireds and FSBOs, have 2 things in common. Number one is that at some point they had a motivation to sell, right? So I think that is where there needs to be a significant amount of focus in terms of the conversation. The other thing is that they weren't successful or they have not yet currently been successful, and therefore they need help. So if we can figure out what their motivation is and we can figure out what it is they want help with, then we are setting and we can do it in a systematic, consistent, appropriate follow-up, then we're proving all the things that put us right in the driver's seat to be hired, right? All right, Julian, last question. If there was somebody, same question is for the FSBOs. If somebody were considering calling for expired listings, or maybe they're currently doing it and just having some trouble with the habits and follow-up or the scripts or whatever, what advice would you give them?
Well, pull the list from Vulcan and choose an area. Just confine it to a very small area so you can become an expert, whether it's a neighborhood or a small city or whatever. Just target that area. Prepare the list. Prepare it the night before. And so when you get up and you're getting ready to do it at 8:30 or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever you're going to do, call that list and be determined to get through that list and be determined to get an appointment. And enjoy it. Just have fun talking with people. They're actually fun to talk to. I met a lot of neat things.
I want to add one thing to what Julian said, because early in this presentation, Julian said at 8:30 he starts the role play script practice. So I think that's a really valuable thing. Don't practice when you're calling. Practice before you call.
Yeah, try to figure out what your first, when you first call us, what you're going to say. Pick one of the scripts. I've got a book of them, and at least it's a way to sound like it's a purposeful call.
That's right.
And it'll get you started. You may not follow all the way through, or they may shut you down. So I just saw my house yesterday. Whatever this fact is, just roll with it.
Yeah, and by the way, if the FSBO has been successful without you, right, they have probably realized along the way that it wasn't as much fun as they thought, and they'll probably be looking for an ongoing realtor relationship. So don't be afraid to ask for it. Hey, next time that you have a real estate need, would you consider, even if you have a random question, I'm sure you probably won't need any help for buying and selling anytime soon, but I'd love to be a resource for you. Can I share my contact information with you? Or what's the best way to share my contact information?
That's great.
Right. And expired listings, even if they're moving out of town, honestly, hey, I'm selling here in Roswell so I can move to Minneapolis. Okay, well, you'll probably have questions up there. Let's add you to the database, right? I can help you when you're there. And the other point is, with expireds, again, if I know that if somebody gets into a relationship with me, I will deliver more value over time than the average real estate agent, then I'm willing to compete. You can go in my database and we'll just see what happens, right? You'll be on my list. I'll check in with you, and most likely I'll outwork your other agent, and we'll see what happens, right? And just because they sold their home, let's say with with another agent, you could say, hey, how was the experience? 90% of the time, they don't even have that great of an experience. So just ask them, hey, how was the experience? Just because they closed doesn't mean they like the person. Right? So they could say, well, it was actually horrible. Say, great.
They're quick to tell you. Yep.
Oh, they are. Oh, so next time you have a real estate question or need, do you have anyone that you trust? Right? And they say, well, not that guy. Say, beautiful. I'd like to get you some information. I'll be in your area tomorrow. Can I drop it off at your house? Whatever. Y'all see all that? I feel like I was a little raw. I almost got like a kind of a look from Candace today. No, okay.
Bill's tough.
Hey, look, these people are not successful and they need help. That's what I do. I help people and I know how to fix what they're not successful at. So it makes perfect sense that we should speak. Right?
Absolutely.
Any questions, feedback, any pointers, anything you guys want to chat about before we wrap today?
This was great, Julian. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace.
Very, very much appreciate it.
I
Julian,
love,
is,
I love your relaxed style.
that's right.
No drama.
That's right. Just tell them what they need to hear, right? In a polite
It's a lot
way.
of trouble.
Ryan, did you want to share something?
No, I was just saying that was helpful. That was good to hear.
Beautiful. Thanks everyone for participating today. And we will see you hopefully this afternoon at the masterminds in the office.
Good luck.
Talk to you soon. Thanks, Julian.